The galaxy had forgotten how humans bury their dead. They interred more than bodies. They buried secrets in vaults of permafrost, weapons in unmarked asteroid graves, truths in the sediment of unremarkable worlds. While the lumens spun their politics like silk and the Galactic Council polished its edicts into scripture, humanity dug deeper, always deeper. It was not malice. Necessity carved such habits into their bones. Long before the Ecliptic Forum hosted its first peace talks, Earth's children learned to read the tremor beneath a smile, to map fault lines in the pause before a lie. They built cities on the spines of volcanoes and called it pragmatism. They forged treaties in the shadow of extinction and called it grace. The luminous and ethereal, dismissed this as primitive poetry. Energy beings who wore gravity like borrowed finery. They could not fathom the weight humans carried, literal, existential, tectonic. They did not notice how Ambassador Kieran Holt's boots left deeper impressions in the forum's halls, how his silence lingered like pressure before a quake. They mistook his patience for submission, his restraint for fear. But patience is the cousin of erosion, and restraint is what remains when a man has memorized the cost of his own rage. The Council's station orbited a nameless star, its spires delicate as glass. It did not occur to the lumen that glass shatters, that a species born of fault lines and fire might study the fragility of borrowed gravity, and think not of diplomacy, but leverage. They should have paid attention to how humans bury their dead, especially the things they bury alive. Chapter 1. The station's air tasted sterile, recycled one too many times through filters that hummed like dying insects. Ambassador Kieran Holt traced a calloused thumb over the seismic readout embedded in his wrist, a nervous tick, left over from years staring at rock fractals in university labs. Now the fractures were galactic. The ecliptic forum loomed around him, its vaulted arches shimmering with alien alloys that refracted light into colors human eyes had no names for. Gravity here felt borrowed, unearned, much like the lumen's smug superiority. He strode past crystalline pillars that sang in frequencies meant to soothe. They grated instead. His boots, sturdy Martian composite, not the Council's preferred velvet slippers, clicked a defiant staccato. The lumen delegates drifted ahead, their forms shimmering like oil on water, untethered by flesh or shame. Energy beings, they called themselves. Holt called them parasites. Parasites who'd forgotten who built their gilded cage. Memories flickered, unbidden. Alara's laugh, bright and brittle as quartz, the night he'd joked about weaponizing subduction zones. You'd crack the world to prove a point, she'd said. Her fingers stained with tea leaves and lithium from the lab. She'd been right. He'd done worse. The council chamber yawned open, a geodesic nightmare of floating platforms and holograms that stank of ionized arrogance. The lead lumen, Aurelian, a pretentious flicker of gold, pulsed with disdain. Your demands are quaint, Ambassador, like hatchlings bargaining for starlight. Their voice vibrated through bone, not air. Holt's wrist readout flared, a tectonic murmur from Earth, deep under the Pacific. Old guilt, old power. He let the silence stretch, a geologist's patience meeting deep time. When he spoke it was to the room's shadows, where Alara's hologram flickered, a ghost his neural implant conjured when the guilt grew teeth. She shook her head. Silent, always silent. Now, quaint. Holt repeated, rolling the word like a sediment core, like needing human tech to keep your spectral asses from unraveling. Aurelian's light dimmed. The stabilizers beneath the station thrummed. Earth's design, reverse-engineered from lumen wreckage. Our tech first, Holt thought. Always ours. But the Council had memory hold the truth, just as they'd erased the human lumen warships fused in some derelict belt. The negotiations dissolved, always dissolving. Holt watched Aurelian's projections, resource charts, trade lanes, veiled threats, and saw Alara's hands again, cradling a sandstone sample the day the quakes took her. You knew the risks, she'd said. Cold, final. a goodbye etched in bedrock. When Holt stood, the chamber's false gravity shuddered. We're done. Aurelian rippled, amused. Running to your fragile blue dot. Running. Holt smirked, fingers brushing the stabilizer remote in his pocket. Just taking back what's mine. The walk to the docking bay was a blur of corridors that bent light into lies. Alien glyphs swam on walls, their translations dripping condescension, harmony through submission, progress and silence. Holt's crew awaited him at the rift spire. Rhea, her scarred hands already dancing over engine schematics, and Jax, a mountain of a man with eyes that never stopped counting exits. They said nothing. They knew the look on his face. Prep for hard burn, Holt ordered. The stabilizer remote felt heavier now. A detonator, a confession. Alara's hologram materialized in the co-pilot's seat, translucent and accusatory. This isn't justice, she said. Her first words in years. Holt flinched. It's survival. He pressed the trigger. The station didn't scream. Space never did. But the stabilizers died with a subsonic wail that vibrated teeth and soul. Gravity stuttered. Lumen forms frayed at the edges, their light bleeding into the sudden void. Aurelian's roar filled the comms, a sound like collapsing stars. Holt's memo pinged the council's servers, its jaunty emoji a middle finger in glyph form. Whoops. My bad. I fall salon. The rift spire tore free of the docking clamps. Behind them, the ecliptic form began its slow unraveling, arches buckling like ribs in a decompressing chest. Jax muttered a prayer. Rhea's hands trembled. Alara's hologram flickered, her voice raw with borrowed static. Was it worth it? Holt didn't answer. He couldn't. Below Earth's tectonic plates whispered back, a counterpoint to the chaos, a reminder. You are still a man who breaks things. Chapter 2. The rift spire shuddered as it tore through the asteroid belt, its hull groaning under the strain of evasion protocols. Kieran Holt's fingers hovered over the navigation console, the ghostly blue light of the interface reflecting in the hollows of his eyes. Outside, jagged shadows of rock and ice scraped past the viewport, their edges blurred by velocity and the faint haze of the ship's failing shields. Every impact rattled his teeth, a percussion of chaos that felt familiar. He'd spent years listening to the Earth's crust scream the same way. Alara's hologram flickered in the corner of the cockpit, her image warped by static. She didn't speak, not since the station collapsed. Her silence was worse than the accusations, a judgment carved into the air itself. Holt kept his gaze fixed on the asteroid field, but he could feel her eyes on the stabilizer remote still clutched in his hand. A relic, now, a paperweight. The council station was dust, and with it the leverage he'd gambled on. Rhea's voice crackled over the intercom, sharp with tension. Shields at 12%. We're a tin can out here. He didn't reply. Words were currency he couldn't afford. Instead he traced the seismic readout on his wrist, its jagged lines mirroring the asteroid belt's erratic dance. The stabilizers in the cargo hold hummed faintly, their resonance a counterpoint to the chaos outside. Human tech, his tech, except the schematics in his mind kept shifting, tectonic truths he couldn't pin down. A proximity alert blared. Holt's hands moved instinctively, rerouting power from life support to thrusters. The ship lurched, tossing loose tools and ration packs against the walls. For a heartbeat, the rift spire hung suspended in the wake of a spinning asteroid the size of a city, its pocked surface glowing faintly with trapped starlight. Then the engines roared, and they were free, hurtling toward the inkblot void beyond the belt. Jax appeared in the cockpit doorway, his bulk framed by the emergency lights. He smelled of solder and sweat. We've got company. Holt didn't turn. He didn't need to. The scanner feeds lit up with angular shapes, council warships, their hulls sleek and venomous, cutting through the asteroids like blades. The Lumen didn't need physical vessels, but they'd learned the theater of intimidation, flicker and threat. They want the stabilizers, Jax said. They'll have to carve them out of the hull, Holt muttered. The ex-soldier's laugh was a dry rasp. You'd let them? Holt's thumb brushed the stabilizer remote. Dead weight now, but he couldn't let go. Alara's voice, years ago, as they hiked the Andes fault line, you'd bury the world to save it, wouldn't you? He'd laughed then. He wasn't laughing now. Rhea stormed in, her hands streaked with coolant grease. We can't outrun them, not without the stabilizers recalibrating the thrusters. Then we don't run. Holt stood, the ship's gravity generators tugging at his bones like a guilty conscience. We bury ourselves. The derelict Lumen warship hung in the black like a broken spine, its hull fused with the skeletal remains of human vessels. Holt had found the coordinates buried in the stabilizer's encrypted logs, a grave no one had mourned. The riftspire slipped into its shadow, engines muted, shields dark. The crew watched through the viewport as the council ships swept past, their searchlights skimming the debris field. Rhea exhaled slowly. How'd you know this was here? Holt didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the wreck. Human and Lumen skeletons littered the corridors, their bones intertwined in a grotesque waltz. The airlock's manual override was stiff with age, but it groaned open under his grip. Cold seeped into the ship, carrying the scent of ionized decay. Alara's hologram flickered to life beside him, her form tinged blue by emergency lights. You're digging graves again, she whispered. He stepped into the derelict. The walls were etched with Lumen glyphs, their swirling patterns half melted by plasma fires. Human script crawled beneath them, names, dates, pleas for rescue. Holt ran a hand over the fused metal, warm despite the void outside. Reverse engineered. The phrase curdled in his mind. The stabilizer's schematics had always felt borrowed, like a song he'd heard in a dream. A sound echoed through the corridor, a harmonic whine, thin and desperate. Holt froze. The stabilizer remote trembled in his hand, its resonance syncopated with the noise. Deeper in the wreck, something glowed. He found her in what remained of the engine core, a Lumen, her form fraying at the edges like torn silk. She pulsed faintly, her light dimmed to the gold of dying embers. When she spoke, her voice was a vibration in the marrow. Thief. Holt knelt, the deck plates bit into his knees. You're dying. We all are. Her light shuddered, coalescing into something almost human, a face gaunt and regal, eyes like supernovae. Your kind stole our legacy, now you drown in it. He almost laughed. Stole. The irony tasted metallic. The stabilizers, they were yours first. The Lumen Lysandra, she whispered her name like a secret, rippled with contempt. Not you grafted your crude machines onto our bones, patched your arrogance into our gravity. Holt's wrist readout buzzed, tectonic analogies scrolled, fault lines, pressure points. He understood suddenly, violently. The stabilizers weren't a tool, they were a graft, a parasitic tech, binding human and Lumen survival into one knotted lie. Alara's hologram appeared beside Lysandra, translucent fingers brushing the Lumen's flickering form. She's right, she said, softer now. You broke the wrong world. They dragged Lysandra aboard the riftspire, her containment field a fragile bubble of borrowed gravity. Rhea cursed when she saw her. Jax reached for his sidearm. Holt silenced them with a look. She's intel, he said. She's a leaky reactor. Rhea snapped. Lysandra's laughter echoed through the ship, tinged with static. You need me, little welder. Your stolen toys are killing you. Holt left them arguing. In the cargo hold, the stabilizers pulsed in their crates, their hum now dissonant, hungry. He pried one open, his hand steady. The schematics glowed, human engineering layered over Lumen glyphs, a palimpsest of betrayal. Alara materialized beside him. You knew, she said. He didn't deny it. The logs in the derelict had been clear. Humans and Lumen once shared the tech freely. Then the council rewrote history, scrubbed the collaboration into a conquest. Pride, he thought. The deadliest fault line. A proximity alert shattered the silence. The council ships had doubled back. Jax's voice boomed through the intercom. They're hailing us. Surrender the stabilizers, or get spaced. Holt stared at the crates. Lysandra's voice slithered into his ear. They'll kill you either way. The council hates loose threads. He made his choice. The airlock cycled open, vomiting the stabilizers into the void. Holt watched them drift. 6 sleek monoliths, their surfaces etched with lies. The council ship surged forward, greedy and blind. What's the play? Jax growled. Holt activated the remote. Newton's revenge. The stabilizers' fail-safes detonated, their gravity cores collapsing into micro-singularities. The council ships shuddered, engines stalling as event horizons bloomed in their path. One vessel sheared apart, its hull screaming into the black. Lysandra's form flickered wildly. You've killed us all. Holt grabbed her containment field, his terraforming rig whining as he jacked it into her systems. Not today. The rig surged, channeling raw tectonic energy into her fading light. She screamed, a sound like planets colliding, then stabilized, her form threaded with veins of molten rock, human and lumen, welded. Alara's hologram watched silent, but for the first time in years, she almost smiled. The rift spire limped away, leaving the black hole's event horizon to devour the council's wrath. Lysandra crouched in the corner of the cockpit, her new hybrid form crackling with unstable grace. Why? She asked. Holt stared at the stabilizer schematics, now fused with lumen truth. Seems I'm not done burying things yet. Outside, the stars blurred into streaks. Somewhere ahead, the derelict's logs whispered of other wrecks, other graves. Holt's wrist readout buzzed, a tectonic murmur. Deep and old, fault lines everywhere. Chapter 3. The derelict warship hung in the void like a fossilized leviathan, its hull pocked with the scars of ancient artillery, and the slow gnawing of cosmic radiation. Kieran Holt floated through its ruptured airlock, the beams of his helmet lamp slicing through dust that had drifted undisturbed for centuries. The debris field outside glittered faintly, a cemetery of ship fragments and frozen bodies, human and lumen alike, their remains fused together by the violence that had claimed them. Their skeletal hands still reached for one another, a macabre ballet of alliance and annihilation. Alara would have loved this, Holt thought bitterly. She'd always seen poetry in ruins. His boots magnetized to the deck with a hollow clang that reverberated through the ship's carcass. The air, what little remained, tasted of rust and ionized metal, a tang that seeped through his suit filters. Lysandra drifted beside him, her hybrid form flickering between corporeal and spectral, the tectonic veins in her energy body pulsing like dormant volcanoes. She hadn't spoken since they'd boarded. Holt preferred it that way. Silence was easier than admitting she'd been right. The corridor ahead twisted into darkness, its walls etched with overlapping glyphs, lumen spirals interlaced with human graffiti. SR-71, crew April 10, 2572. Tell them we tried. The dates were centuries old. Holt's wrist readout buzzed, translating a nearby lumen inscription. Unity birthed in gravitational embrace. He snorted. Unity, the only thing embracing here was rot. Lysandra's voice crackled through his comms, brittle as old glass. You feel it too. The weight. He didn't answer, but she was right. The ship pressed on him, not with gravity but with memory. Every step unearthed whispers, boots clanging down hallways, laughter over shared rations, the hiss of plasma cutters sealing bulkheads, ghosts of collaboration. They reached the engine core, its massive reactor door scarred by claw marks and welder burns. Holt pried it open, the hinges screaming. Inside, the stabilizer prototype loomed, a grotesque fusion of lumen crystalline matrices and human ironwork, its surface barnacled with jury-rigged wires and fractured glyphs. Alara's hologram flickered to life beside it, her fingers trailing through the dust-caked control panels. You knew, she said, not looking at him. He did. The logs from the Riftspire's stolen stabilizers had hinted at it. But here, in the carcass of the truth, denial was impossible. Humans hadn't reverse-engineered lumen tech. They'd collaborated, built the stabilizers together, side by side, before the Council scrubbed the history, before the war. Lysandra drifted to the reactor's heart, her light dimming, as she pressed a semi-solid hand to its surface. "We were never energy beings," she murmured, more to herself than Holt. "We are borrowers, parasites who learned to wear starlight as skin. Your ancestors gave us the stabilizers to survive our own fading, and we repaid them by calling it theft." Holt's glove brushed a human skeleton slumped against the reactor, a rusted wrench still clutched in its fingers. The name tag read Voss. E. His breath stalled. Alara's hologram froze, her pixels stuttering. "No, not here." But the record scrolling across his visor confirmed it. Dr. Alara Voss, assigned to the Joint Lumen-Human Engineering Initiative, declared MIA during the first schism. Her files, buried under layers of council censorship, her final report, uploaded to the reactor's dead drive. "The stabilizers are a covenant, not a weapon. Break them, and we break the sky." The ship groaned around them, a sound like old bones settling. Lysandra's form rippled, tendrils of energy snaking into the reactor's ports. "They're coming," she said. Holt didn't need to ask who. The Riftspire's proximity alerts blared in his ear. "Council warships, closer than ever." Jax's voice cut through, frayed at the edges. "They're bypassing the black hole's pull." 10 minutes out, Alara's hologram solidified, her eyes sharp, broadcast the logs, all of them, every lie, every erased alliance. Holt hesitated. The reactor's core whined, its fractured stabilizer pulsing erratically. To transmit the truth would be to light a signal fire in the dark and paint a target on the Riftspire's back. He glanced at the skeleton. Voss. E. Her bones seemed smaller than he remembered. Lysandra drifted between him and the reactor, her voice a blade. "You humans and your sacrifices. You break what you love to prove you can endure the breaking." She gestured to the fused corpses around them. "We are all graves now. Plant something in us that grows." The comms crackled again. "Jax. 5 minutes." Holt's hand hovered over the transmission trigger. Alara's hologram leaned close, her static breath warm against his ear. "You once told me guilt is the echo of doing nothing. Is this yours?" He slammed his palm down. The reactor flared, the stabilizer's fractured core vomiting data into the void. Every hidden log, every redacted treaty. Alara's final plea to the future. Lysandra's form stretched thin, her energy bleeding into the transmission to amplify its reach. "Go," she hissed, her light dissolving into the data stream. "Tell them we chose this." The Riftspire's engines screamed as Holt fled the derelict, the warship disintegrating behind him in a supernova of truth. Council vessels faltered, their weapons systems flickering as the transmission hacked their networks. Across the galaxy, rebellion sparked like struck flint. In the cockpit, Alara's hologram watched the chaos on the scanners, her face unreadable. Holt's wrist readout buzzed, a tectonic shift, deep and irrevocable. "Still think it wasn't worth it?" he asked, the words ash in his mouth. She faded without answering, but in the quiet that followed, the stabilizers hummed a lullaby of union. Human and Lumen, note by fractured note. Chapter 4. The ecliptic forum hung in the void, like a shattered chandelier, its once gleaming spires bent inward, as if the station itself were folding under the weight of its lies. Kieran Holt stood at the viewport of the Riftspire, his reflection fractured by the cracks in the glass. Behind him, the stabilizers hummed, no longer a stolen cadence, but a chorus. Human and Lumen, a truth he could no longer outrun. Lysandra's voice whispered through the ship's comms, her essence woven into the stabilizer's core. After the derelict's collapse, "They'll shoot you on sight," she said, her tone stripped of its former venom. Now it was almost fond. Holt adjusted the seismic dampeners on his wrists, the tech whining like a wounded animal. The Council's warships circled the station, their hulls bristling with weapons, but their formations were hesitant, fractured. The transmission of truth had done its work. Riots bloomed in the forum's lower decks,
Lumen civilians siding with human rebels, their shared fury a gravity of its own. Alara's hologram flickered at his side, her form steadier now, as if the stabilizer's harmony fed her pixels. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Her skeleton, still clutching that rusted wrench in the derelict's heart, had said enough. Prep the shuttle, Holt ordered, his voice gravel-worn smooth by exhaustion. Jax loomed in the doorway, his arms crossed. You'll need backup. No, they need a villain, not a war. Rhea shoved past Jax, her hands smeared with stabilizer coolant. You'll need this. She tossed him a detonator, its surface etched with lumen glyphs and human fail-safe. If the Council tries to override the stabilizers, Holt pocketed it. The weight was familiar. Another detonator, another life, traded for leverage. But this time, the fuse was truth. The shuttle's interior stank of burnt wiring and regret. Holt strapped himself in, the harness biting into shoulders still sore from dragging Lysandra's fading form through the derelict. The stabilizer's resonance seeped through the hull, a low thrum that vibrated in his molars. He'd heard that frequency before, deep in the Earth's mantle, where tectonic plates groaned against one another, their grudges older than species. The docking clamps released, the ecliptic forum swelled in the viewport, its wounds raw and glittering. Holt's wrist readout buzzed, a tectonic alert from Earth, a quake simmering under Jakarta. He ignored it, ignored too, the way Alara's hologram materialized in the co-pilot seat, her eyes tracing the station's scars. You'll die here, she said. Probably. And that's enough. He thought of Lysandra dissolving into the data stream, her light threaded with his terraformer's rage. Thought of Alara's bones in the dark, still fighting to fix what he'd broken. It's a start. The shuttle breached the forum's crippled shields. Debris pinged the hull, twisted metal, flecks of frozen coolant, the occasional body, human, lumen, indistinguishable in death. The council chamber was a tomb. Aurelian's golden light sputtered at the central dais, their form frayed, their voice a guttering static. You return to gloat, thief. Holt stepped into the room, the detonator, a cold stone in his palm. The air stank of ionized panic and melted alloy. Lumen delegates, huddled in the shadows, their light dimmed. Human rebels flanked the exits, rifles raised but trembling. A teenage boy with Alara's eyes stood among them, a wrench in hand instead of a gun. She'd have loved that, Holt thought. I'm here to fix what we broke, he said, nodding to the rebels. They lowered their weapons, inch by inch, as he moved to the stabilizer control hub, a massive console, its panels cracked and sparking. Aurelians surged forward, their light lashing. You'll fix nothing, you who crippled us. Holt activated the detonator. The console flared, holograms, exploding into a storm of data, ship manifests, treaties, Alara's final logs. The truth, laid bare. Your move, he said softly. The chamber held its breath. In the end, it was the boy with the wrench who stepped forward. He knelt at the console, fingers flying over the keys with a mechanic's intuition. The stabilizer's hum shifted, harmonizing with the Riftspire's core. We can anchor the station, the boy said, not looking up. Use your tectonic tech to tether it to the neutron star's gravity. Balance the pull. Holt stared at him. Alara's ghost smiled. Aurelian writhed. You'd bind us to human machinery, to chaos. No, Holt said, crouching beside the boy. To choice. Together they input the coordinates, Earth's fault lines, the neutron star's relentless drag, the equations Alara had scribbled in margins now ash. The station shuddered, its spine aligning with the cosmos's silent song. Lysandra's voice flooded the chamber, woven through every speaker. You wanted survival, Aurelia. Here it is. Heavy, isn't it? The council's leader dimmed, their light collapsing inward. A surrender. Maya's. Holt left them to the paperwork, the treaties, the royalties, the hollow promises of reform. Rhea met him at the docks, her hands clean for once. "They're offering you a seat on the council," she said. He handed her the detonator. "They're offering you a seat. Take Jack's. Keep them honest." She hesitated. "And you?" The Riftspire waited, its engines sighing. Lysandra's laughter echoed through the stabilizers. "I've got graves to visit," he said. Maya's, Earth's gravity, embraced him like a grudging lover. Holt hiked the Andes fault line at dawn, the air thin and sharp, the rocks underfoot still whispering their ancient grudges. Alara's grave was a simple thing, a cairn of volcanic stone, her name etched into a slab of quartz. He knelt, his knees protesting. The tectonic readout on his wrist buzzed. Jakarta's quake had subsided. "A near thing. You'd hate this," he muttered, placing a stabilizer chip atop the cairn. "All this peace, no one to fight." The wind snatched his words, scattering them over the cliffs. But for the first time in decades, the silence felt light. Lysandra's voice crackled through his calm, her signal stretched thin by atmosphere. "Still an asshole, Quake." He smiled. "Working on it." Above, the sky deepened to twilight. Somewhere beyond it, the ecliptic forum orbited its neutron star, stabilizers humming a blended hymn. Human, lumen, a fragile equilibrium. Holt stood, his shadow stretching long over the cairn. The fault line murmured beneath him, a reminder. The world bends, but it does not break. He walked back to the Riftspire, the stars waking one by one. Epilogue. The stabilizers pulse in the station's heart, their light, a braid of gold and iron. In the lower decks, a lumen child hands a human mechanic a wrench, their laughter echoing through the scars. The galaxy remains a mosaic of fractures, but for now, in the spaces between, there is gravity enough.